Dear student, good morning, everybody. Uh, this is where we were talking about in the last lecture, the list of academic databases. In fact, like I was trying to tell you how literature review is going to be important in inculcating novelty in our investigation. I told you that if you really want to start your research, the very first step that you need to follow after identification of broad topic would be literature review. Now, as far as literature review is concerned, again, I have given you a couple of examples that if you referred only substandard journals, you will not be able to inculcate novelty in your investigation because those substandard journals will be having copy pasted research work. I mean, copy pasted means like there won't be any novelty in their research investigation. And therefore, if you really want to inculcate novelty in your investigation, you need to refer the Journal of International Repute. And therefore, you need to understand what are the Journal of International Repute. And that is why I wanted to show you some of the uh, academic databases. This is the list of some of the academic databases. You can see in the first column it is the name of database like Arts and Humanities Citation Index, Indian Citation Index, Science Citation Index, Scopus, Social Science Citation Index, and Stringer. Now, since you are from, because for science, you can refer this Indian Citation Index, Science Citation Index, Scopus, and Springer. These all are multidisciplinary citation indices, and whatever journal you will be referring from, these citation index are going to be Journal of International Repute. And therefore, whenever you will be identifying journals for literature review, you can do a quick Google search and type there a Scopus Index journal in the area of, let us say, sensor, because you need to identify first broad area. And once you identify broad area, then you can go ahead and search the Scopus Index journals in your broad area. And that is why I told you that you can go ahead and search in Google or Google Scholar that a Scopus Index list of Scopus Index journals in the area of census. And that will give you a huge list of all the Scopus Index journals. You can click on the individual journals. You can go to the website of that individual journal, see the citation details of that journal, and ensure that that journal is going to be a quality journal for you. That journal is going to be uh, the journal where the platform rather where the most of the research scholar in your area is going to publish the data there. And therefore I thought I should show you the list of academic databases. And then I told you even last lecture that's what is Scopus, because you need to understand what is Scopus as well, right? The Scopus is elsewhere abstract and citation database which is launched in 2004. Basically it covers many books, journals, and trade journals as well. And as far as the Scopus is concerned, it uh, publishes various journals, conference proceedings, book series, and trade journal. This is what you need to remember. Similarly, you need to understand Web of Science because there are two very standard databases available, Web of Science and Scopus. Scopus, I told you. Similarly, what is Web of Science? Web of Science, previously known as Web of Knowledge. This is an online subscription-based scientific citation index service, originally produced by Institute of Scientific Information, because earlier it was being maintained by this ISI. Now it is being maintained by Clarivate Analytics. This is also a multiple database, a cross-disciplinary platform, and it consisting of various journals and and conference proceeding as well. Usually Web of Science don't support the conference proceeding, but they support only journals. This is multidisciplinary. Huge number of journals are they are supporting, and as I mentioned earlier, nowadays it is being maintained by Clarivate Analytics. This is from United States. You must have came across a research gate as well, so I should tell you what the research gate is all about. Research gate is social networking site for scientists and researchers to share papers, ask and answer questions, and find collaboration. Usually what happens, if you are having some publications with you, you can create account on research gate, you can share your publication there, and then people will be asking you questions, right? People will be asking you questions about your own publication. If you are really active on the ResearchGate, then only your score will be enhanced. ResearchGate was created in Germany in 2008, and by November 2016, it claimed to have 11 million users and 100 million publications. I mean, every day, the ResearchGate keep on adding the users as well as publication, because every day you can get yourself login to our ResearchGate. You can be a user of ResearchGate, and moreover you can upload your publication there. Most importantly, whatever RG score means ResearchGate score. This is basically a metric that measures scientific reputation of the researcher. But truly speaking, it is highly impossible to get high RG score solely through publications only. Like as I mentioned earlier, if you are not active, if you are passive person, if you are not interacting with, because whenever you are uploading your paper on ResearchGate, and there will be a lot of questions raising by other research scholars, and if you are not responding, your score is not going to be enhanced. And therefore, only on the basis of academics, on the basis of publication, you will not be able to have high research RG score. And therefore, RG score is never taken as an academic reputation indicator, because only I mean, researchers, those who are active, I mean, those who are having publications and those who are active, their RG score is going to be more, and therefore this should not be considered as indicator for academic reputation. Similarly, you need to understand what is Google Scholar as well. Google Scholar is freely accessible web search engine that index the full text or metadata of scholarly literature across an array of publishing format and discipline. It was released in 2004. In fact, Google Scholar take care of uh, conferences, index journal as well as non-index journal. One of the problem with Google Scholar is they also have the list. I mean, non-index journal as well, and therefore, if you are having citation from Google Scholar, it means that you are having citation from non-index journals as well. Whereas Scopus and Web of Science always considered, or they always take care of only index journal. In the difference between index journal and non-index journal is going to be, index journals are going to be highly reputed, whereas non-index journals are not going to be that much reputed. Many substandard journals are going to be part of Google Scholar, and therefore this is a comparison, citation comparison. This is my data only. You can see the Google Scholar citation comparison with Scopus and Web of Science. Let me tell you, like myself is having 210 publication in Google Scholar, whereas on Scopus I have only 148 and Web of Science 134. आप देखिए कि Google Scholar में ज़्यादा नंबर है, Scopus में उससे कम है, and Web of Science में उससे भी कम है. What does it mean? It means that Google Scholar always consider some non-index journal as well, whereas Scopus always consider only index journal and index conference proceedings, whereas Web of Science consider only and only index journals. And that is why you can see number decline. Google Scholar has high number, Scopus has less, and Web of Science has still further less. Similarly, if you look at the number of citations, I am having Google Scholar citations 3,488. Citations means, I mean, those many number of people have referred my publications. 3,488, whereas in Scopus it is 2,629. Because here, why number is more in Google Scholar? Because it has some non-index journal as well, whereas Scopus has only index journal. Whereas again, Web of Science has still less, because uh, the Web of Science only support index journal, whereas Scopus support index journal as well as index conference proceedings. As far as H index is concerned, H index जैसे मैंने पहले बताया कि H index always gives you the impact, or we can say the H index is a measure of impact of research scholar or professor or scientist, right? So you can see my H index is 32 on Google Scholar, whereas my H index is 28 on Scopus, and that is and Web of Science is 27. You can see this is how the number is going to be important, because Google Scholar always consider non-index journal, and therefore numbers are going to be very high. Even total number of articles, number of citations, and H index. You can see number and compare it with Scopus, right? Similarly, I-10 index, I am having 96 on I-10 means how many publication has minimum 10 citations out of like 210, 96 publication has minimum 10 citations. Whereas Scopus and Web of Science, they don't calculate I-10 index, they calculate only H index. So this, the main purpose of showing this slide is to tell you how Scopus and Web of Science is going to be very standard and reputed databases or index as compared to Google Scholar. And therefore, we should always refer, whenever you will be referring papers, research paper for review, you should always refer only Scopus or Web of Science Index. Moreover, like because in second semester, as I told you earlier as well, because this semester I'm teaching you what the research methodology is all about. Whereas in second semester, you will have to identify the broad topic, you will have to do literature review. I mean, whatever theory I'm teaching you, you will have to do it in practical, right? I mean, you will be doing this in second semester. I mean, you will be identifying journals, you will be doing literature review, then you will be on the basis of literature review, you will be formulating hypotheses, and then on the basis of hypothesis you will be formulating objectives and methodology. So this theoretical work you will be doing in semester 2, and then from semester 3 onwards you will be working on the project. So this is how the research methodology course is going to go during your 4 semesters. So whenever you will be identifying 10 best journal, because the very first thing that you will have to do in the second semester is identification of 10 best research journal in area of your interest. And therefore whenever you will be advised to identify 10 best journal, जब आपको बताया जाएगा कि आपको 10 best journals identify करने हैं, तो you need to understand, you need to know what are the criteria for that, right? So apart from impact factor, because I told you earlier, impact factor always take care of the citations of that particular journal during last 2 years, right? Because because I told you the formula as well in last lecture, how impact factor of any journal can be calculated. Whenever we are calculating impact factor of any journal, it is going to take care of citations of all those articles which have been published during last preceding 2 years, right? So apart from impact factor, there are 4 more parameters which need to be considered while identifying best journal. So one of that is site score. What is site score? Site score measures average citations received per document published in this title during last 3 years. Impact factor always gives you the measure of citations during last 2 years, whereas site score always gives you the measure of citation details during last 3 years. Again, how it is going to be calculated? As I told you, the total number of articles, the formula for site score would be the total number of articles published during last 3 years is going to be in denominator. The same formula is going to be there, because I told you the formula for impact factor, right? The total number of article, what is formula for impact factor? The total number of article published during last 2 years, that is going to be denominator. And what is numerator? Numerator would be out of those articles which have been published during last 2 years, how many of them got citation in current year. Like if you are calculating impact factor of 2020, तो पिछले 2 साल में बस 2018 and 19 में कितने आर्टिकल पब्लिश किए, the total number goes to the denominator, and out of those total number उनके कितने आर्टिकल को citation मिला है 2020 में, right? Out of those, let us say if one particular journal publishing 200 articles during last 2 years, the 200 number is going to be in the denominator, and out of those 200 articles, how many of them got citation in 2020? जरा आप 2020 का अगर impact factor निकाल रहे हो तो that goes to the numerator. So what is site score? Site score, the difference between impact factor and site score is going to be, site score gives you the measure of citation during last 3 years, whereas impact factor gives you measure of citation during last 2 years. Okay, तो आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि site score journal का क्या है. Then 5-year impact factor. Sometimes what happens, like if you want to have the very stable performance of any journal, जैसे कि हमारे एकेडमिक में आपको बताया जाता है कि you need to score at least B plus during throughout your academics, throughout your academic career. So the student who is scoring B plus in each and every class is going to be considered as a very stable performance, right? Similarly, if it like अगर कोई स्टूडेंट है, किसी को कभी फर्स्ट क्लास मिलता है, कभी डिस्टिंक्शन मिलता है, कभी फर्स्ट क्लास मिलता है, इसका मतलब समथिंग इज रॉन्ग विद दैट स्टूडेंट. For some reason he is not performing well, and therefore that student is not going to be considered as a good student. Similarly, as far as impact factor is concerned, if you really want the journal to be identified, then it should have a very stable impact factor. Therefore, apart from impact factor side score, 5-year impact factor need to be considered, and it is going to be given on the first page of the journal. Next factor is HJR. What is HJR? HJR is Scimago Journal Rank. HJR indicator. Scimago Journal Rank is also going to be a measure of scientific influence of scholarly journals that accounts for both number of citations received by the journal and the importance or prestige of the journal where the citation is coming from. Iska matlab it's not only number, the quality is also going to matter. Like for example, one particular journal having 1,000 citations, but who have referred those journals, right? Which journals have cited these particular journals, right? And then these articles, and therefore this HR take care of the quantity as well as the quality of the citations too, and therefore HR factor is also going to be very important measure for identification of journal of international repute. Next is SNIP, SNIP SNIP. SNIP stands for Source Normalized Impact Factor per paper. This measures the impact of paper within the subject field. Like for example, एक कोई जर्नल है जिसमें एक इशू में अगर मान लो 20 आर्टिकल पब्लिश होते हैं, so all those 20 articles are not going to get good citations. कभी ऐसा होगा कि out of those 20, 15 got good, very good citations, but one journal doesn't get good citation, right? तो अगर मान लो एक आर्टिकल मतलब आउट ऑफ 20, 15 को अच्छे साइटेशन मिले और 5 को ऐसे अच्छे साइटेशन नहीं मिले, so this is SNIP is going to normalize the overall impact factor of that journal, and therefore SNIP is also going to be very important. So if you really want to identify journal of international repute for literature review, you need to consider these 5 parameters: impact factor number 1, side score number 2, 5-year impact factor number 3, HJR number 3, 4, and SNIP number 5. So all these 5 factors you can see on the front page of journals. This is one of the example of good journal, Sensors and Actuators B Chemical. ये बड़ा important journal है. आप अगर इसके front page पे जाओगे तो आपको सब कुछ मिलेगा, but here आपको ढूंढना पड़ेगा उसके ऊपर. But you can see here side score of this journal is 11.8, right? Impact factor is 7.10. So impact factor gives you the citation details of 2 years. Side score gives you the impact citation of 3 years, right? You can see. So whenever you will be looking for good journal, you need to go to the website, the web page of that journal, and you will be able to see all those factors here. Then this is another journal. This is in fact Applied Physics Latest. You can see Applied Physics Latest has 5-year impact factor 3.4, yearly impact factor 3.5, and then all parameters have not been mentioned here, but like you can see all those things on the website of this journal very specifically, right? This is another very important, very quality journal, American Chemical Society publications, Nanolater. The title of journal is Nanolater. You can see here, as far as the parameters are concerned, as far as the citation details are concerned, 2019 impact factor is 11.2, and total citations received like 1,65,000. So as far as the other parameters, as I mentioned earlier, you can see those other parameters on the various pages, different pages of the journal. This is another very reputed journal from the area of from material science, rather, Journal of Physics D, Applied Physics. You can see impact factor is 3.169 and the side score is 5.3. This is one more journal, because I am showing you the glimpses of some of the reputed journals in the area of material science. applied physics A, material science and processing, and you can see impact factor is 1.8, is 5-year impact factor is 1.68. अब देखिए 2 साल का कितना है 1.8, मतलब ये ईयरली इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर होता है, बट पिछले 2 साल का रिकॉर्ड चेक करता है। एंड साइज स्कोर जो पिछले सॉरी दिस इज 5-year इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर, साइज स्कोर यहाँ पर नहीं दिया गया, बट आपको साइज स्कोर इसके वेबसाइट आप अगर ढूंढेंगे तो आपको मिल जाएंगे इसके वेबसाइट पर। This is another journal, Journal of Physical Chemistry C. This is also material science journal. A lot of, I mean, the materials which are being used for different applications like sensors, photovoltaic cells. This journal is the wonderful platform for publication of those. आप देखिए इसका 2019 का इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर कितना है 4.189, राइट। एंड देन दिस इज वन मोर IEEE सेंसर जर्नल, इसका इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर देखिए 3.07 है, राइट। एंड बाकी फैक्टर सभी आपको जैसे मैंने बताया कि सभी फ्रंट पेज पे नहीं मिलेंगे इसके, लेकिन आप जब इसकी वेबसाइट पे जाओगे तो आपको ये सभी फैक्टर्स जो मैंने 5 पैरामीटर बताए आपको यू विल बी एबल टू सी दोस पैरामीटर्स. So this is how you need to identify the journals, right? Now, whenever you will be referring journals, like जैसे मैंने बताया आपको कि आपको लिटरेचर रिव्यू करने के लिए सबसे पहले तो आपको बेस्ट जर्नल आइडेंटिफाई करने हैं, एंड देन यू विल हैव टू डाउनलोड एटलीस्ट 10 to 15 पेपर्स, राइट। 10 to 15 पेपर जो डाउनलोड करने हैं आपके एरिया के डाउनलोड करने हैं, दैट आई एम गोइंग टू टेल यू बाय द एंड ऑफ टुडेस लेक्चर, कि जो आपका जो फोकस एरिया होगा, जिस एरिया में आप काम करना चाहोगे उस एरिया में आपको पेपर डाउनलोड करने हैं, एंड वंस यू डाउनलोड द पेपर देन यू विल हैव टू रिव्यू दोस पेपर. तो रिव्यू करते समय what you are going to do, you are going to for each and every I will show you one example as well. While reviewing paper you will have to go through the papers, you will have to understand like what kind of objectives the research scholars were having during their investigation, what kind of methodology they have followed, what kind of tools they have used for interpretation of the data, what are the important conclusions of their investigations, and then most importantly you need to identify some loopholes in their investigation. Unless you identify loopholes in their investigation, you will not be able to inculcate novelty in your investigation. आप एक बात आप ध्यान में रखिए कि unless you identify the shortcomings or loopholes or pitfalls in the papers which you will be referring, you will not be able to inculcate novelty in your investigation. That is the purpose of literature review. Literature review का purpose तो वो है, हमें ये देखना है कि बाकी रिसर्च स्कॉलर ने अभी तक क्या किया है, and then what has not been tackled, what has not been so far done, what kind of issues still that particular topic is having. That identification, this is what you call as the gap identification. So this gap identification can be done through literature review. Once you do the literature review, like once you do the review of those literature, then you will be able to formulate hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Basically, hypothesis is a kind of assumption. You will be able to predict right in the beginning. तो जैसे कि आपने लिटरेचर रिव्यू किया है, आपको पता चला है कि लोगों ने बहुत कुछ काम किया लेकिन वन पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट जो है काम किया ही नहीं है, राइट। तो क्या एस्पेक्ट होगा, फिर से मैं सेम एग्जांपल देता हूं, इससे पहले भी मैंने बहुत बार एग्जांपल दिया कि फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर वर्किंग इन सेंसर, because since I am working in sensor, I will be quoting example of sensors only. So since let us say like I am working in sensors and I would like to develop carbon monoxide sensor, right? तो अगर कार्बन मोनोक्साइड सेंसर पे मुझे रिसर्च करना है तो व्हाट आई नीड टू डू, आई नीड टू फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एल्सवेयर, बाकी लोगों ने अभी तक क्या काम किया है. So I have gone through different papers and I came to know that people have used many materials. Let us say I would like to work on carbon nanotubes, right? So what I'm going to do, I will be searching for carbon nanotube based carbon monoxide sensor, and I have seen that. And then what I have seen is there are some people, they have used one particular material to modify carbon nanotube. As a result of that, they could enhance some sensor parameters. Right now, some of the sensor parameters after modification of carbon nanotube by porphyrin. Porphyrin is another material, right? You need not bother too much. Porphyrin is one of the material. तो मान लो आपको पता चल गया कि porphyrin ये material use करके जो कि modify किया है carbon nanotube को, उसके बावजूद भी कुछ parameters जैसे कि for example sensitivity somehow they could not enhance the sensitivity of the journal, I mean the sensor, right? So then what you will be doing, it means that this is the problem that you have identified, right? ये problem आपने identify किया है, and then आपको क्या करना है? Now you need to see like how this you will be able to enhance, how you will be enhance the sensitivity. So then what you do, you can make your own planning. आप plan करोगे कि okay, these particular researchers, so you have referred let us say 10 papers, 10 के 10 रिसर्च स्कॉलर ने, मान लो आपने देखा कि उन्होंने porphyrin नाम का मटेरियल यूज किया कार्बन नैनोट्यूब्स को मॉडिफाई करने के लिए, but in spite of that they could not enhance sensitivity, let us say more than 50%. Now this shortcomings you have identified, right? And then you will be using some other material, right? तो आप क्या करेंगे फिर? You will searching for some other material. Let us say you identified organic conducting polymers, and then you will be proposing that by modification of carbon nanotube by organic conducting polymer, I will be able to enhance sensitivity more than 50%, which others could not do it. It means you are doing something new. It means you are doing something new. So what, through literature review, what you identified? You have identified some drawbacks, some shortcomings, and you have prepared a comprehensive plan to address that shortcomings, right? And then what you are expecting now? You are expecting that by using organic conducting polymer, by modifying the carbon nanotube with organic conducting polymer, you will be able to enhance sensitivity beyond 50%, जो कि अभी तक किसने किया नहीं. So this is what your hypothesis is going to be, right? Hypothesis क्या है? कि hypothesis is simply an educated, testable guess about answer to your research question. What was your question? Your question was why other research scholar could not enhance sensitivity of CO sensor more than 50%. This was your question. Through literature review, this question you have raised, right? You have formulated this question, right? And you got the answer. What answer you got? Okay, by using organic conducting polymer, I will be able to enhance sensitivity of the sensor by more than 50%. So this is what your hypothesis is going to be. So hypothesis is often described as an attempt by the research scholar to explain the phenomenon of interest. मतलब ये आपको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी होगी, ये आप एक्सप्लेन करोगे, आप बताओगे कि yes, by using organic conducting polymer, by modifying a carbon nanotube by organic conducting polymer, I will be able to enhance sensitivity. So this kind of prediction you will be doing in hypothesis. So key feature of all hypothesis is that each must make some prediction, because unless like there could be one or two hypotheses in your investigation, right? One or two hypothesis का मतलब क्या हुआ? जैसे this is something like having plan A and plan B. बहुत बार ऐसा होगा कि आपका प्लान ए अगर वर्क नहीं करेगा, मान लो आपने लोगों ने जैसे मैंने बताया कि फॉर्फेरिन नाम का एक मटेरियल यूज किया, but they could not enhance sensitivity more than 50%. You are proposing organic conducting polymer, लेकिन आपको पता नहीं है, right? You are predicting, but you never know whether you will be able to get success or not. So you should have plan B. So first plan is going to be organic conducting polymer. आप कार्बन नैनोट्यूब को ऑर्गेनिक कंडक्टिंग पॉलीमर से मॉडिफाई करेंगे. You need to have another plan, like maybe metal nanoparticles, right? So you will be decorating your carbon nanotube with metal nanoparticles, and then you can enhance the sensitivity. So आपका plan A, hypothesis number 1 है कि organic conducting polymer will be able to enhance sensitivity. Plan B आपका होगा कि metal nanoparticle will be able to enhance the sensitivity of the sensor. So whatever hypothesis you will be having, each must make some prediction. If it knows, then it's not going to be hypothesis. Then more about the hypothesis. A hypothesis is an assumption about relations between the variables. So what are the variables? आपकी variables क्या है? आपका एक material and sensitivity. These are two parameters, two variables, right? So that gives you the relationship between those variables. Hypothesis can be defined as a logical estimated relationship between two or more variables expressed in the form of testable statement. I'm going to show you that statement as well, how the testable statement can be formulated. This is one more definition of hypothesis. Hypothesis is a logical supposition or reasonable guess or an explanation for a phenomenon under investigation. जो आप काम कर रहे हो वो जो है आप जो प्रपोज करेंगे, वो प्रपोज करने के बाद आप कुछ assumption करेंगे, कुछ prediction करोगे, that prediction is nothing but your hypothesis. Why we should have a hypothesis? There are two advantages of hypothesis, one short term and one long term. What is short term advantage? Short term is it establishes a research strategy, because this hypothesis is going to provide you an opportunity to prepare a comprehensive strategy for your investigation. क्योंकि आपने डिसाइड किया कि मुझे ऑर्गेनिक कंडक्टिंग पॉलीमर से मॉडिफाई करना है कार्बन नैनोट्यूब को, अकॉर्डिंगली यू विल बी प्लानिंग योर एक्सपेरिमेंट, राइट? सो दिस गिव्स यू अ शॉर्ट टर्म advantage to establish the research strategy. What is long term advantage? It can answer research question, because whatever question you have generated, आपने क्वेश्चन क्या जनरेट किया कि why sensitivity of carbon monoxide sensor is not beyond 50%. जितने भी आपने रिसर्च पेपर देखे, आपको पता चला कि किसी ने भी, people have tried many material but somehow for one or other reason they could not enhance the sensitivity of the sensor more than 50%. ये आपका सवाल था, ये क्वेश्चन आपने थ्रू लिटरेचर रिव्यू जनरेट किया, and this hypothesis is going to provide you answer to your research question. This is very, very important, because whenever you are drafting question, you need to have a strategy to get answer, because if you are not able to get answer to your research question, then you will be in trouble. Friend, after 1 minute, this is going to be terminated, link is going to be terminated, and again you will have to rejoin by using the same link. Now, what is the importance of hypothesis? Hypothesis is important because it guides research and researcher, because this is going to provide a wonderful opportunity to learn to the researcher as well as your research investigation. Because you see, आप जो भी hypothesis आप लिखोगे, जो भी prediction आप लोग करोगे, accordingly you will be forming, you will be you will be designing set of objectives. Like a plan तैयार करोगे आप, you will be having experimental plan based on your hypothesis. That gives you a kind of track to reach to your destination. It also helps an investigator to locate information needed to resolve the respective problem. जो problem आपका था, जो question आपने generate किया, hypothesis is going to help you to locate the information, because you need to have some information to get answer